Hey, how you doing? I was going through some documents the other day that I had printed out from a courthouse down in Virginia. And I did that because I do work on ancestry. I like knowing where my relatives used to live and what they were doing and that type of stuff. And you can find out a lot of information from wills and deeds and other documents that they had recorded at the courthouse. In fact, one of the documents was actually listing like household belongings that one of my relatives had owned, back in the late 1800s or whatever, including a good plow and what he considered to be an old plow. I guess he was really proud of that new plow that he had gotten. But it also listed like even household furniture and stuff like that. So it's an interesting thing. But what I noticed was the documents were done in cursive, in handwriting. They were all handwritten. Well, of course, because that's pretty much all you had back then. So all the documents were handwritten. But the wills and the deeds and everything were all handwritten. And I started thinking, wow, schools are getting away from that a little bit, probably since the 2000s. Well, I guess the schools went away from it because they were going in favor of keyboarding, like digital, getting all the kids ready for the digital age that was upon us. But I don't know why they had to get rid of cursive. You'd think they could have done both. Well, I know when I was going to school, handwriting was big. I mean, we learned that early on in the very beginning of elementary school. You had the printed letters that you would practice, and you had the handwritten letters. And they were practiced on this type of paper. The blue solid lines with this blue dashed line in between. That made it easier, especially for younger kids, to know where to end what parts of which characters. So for example, if I was going to write out here something like this. So if you're going to write something like this, everybody should be able to read that. And then, of course, feel free to let me know what you think the answer to that question is. But nonetheless, it got me thinking about all of the things that you need handwriting for. It's not just court documents, obviously. Like I use handwriting for, even writing out checks, signing the checks, of course, but also handwriting in the dollar amount, stuff like that. And your handwriting, like on your signature of your check, it has to be pretty consistent. Now, I'm sure everybody does that today anyway, even if handwriting isn't that big. I would think people sign their name the same way because you still need to sign some documents and stuff. But you used to have like a check cashing card on file with your local bank because they would compare that if they were trying to make sure a check was valid. They would compare your handwriting signature to the signature card that they had on file at the bank. Make sure nobody was forging your checks or anything like that. So that was one example that I still do use all the time, handwriting. Now, another thing is postcards. Now, I know it might have been a while since you sent out your last postcard, but they still exist, and I used to use them all the time. Say I was visiting, like, the Grand Canyon or something. I would pick up some postcards because they were at every little shop. Like, anywhere you went that was a tourist site, there were little shops selling like souvenirs and stuff like that. And they always had racks of postcards. And the postcards, of course, had the really vibrant, nice pictures and stuff by the professional photographers and everything. Well, I would pick up a couple of those postcards, and then later on, maybe even after the trip or toward the end of the trip, I would sit down in the evening, if it was at the hotel room or whatever, write out the postcards, stick a stamp on there, and send them off. So this got me back to the handwriting thing. Back in the 1800s, a lot of people weren't very versed in reading or writing. It was a little on the sketchy side back then. But by the early 1900s, people could pretty much read and write. I know my grandfather, for example, was born in 1916. And I have handwritten letters and stuff that he had sent, throughout his life, and like on different documents and stuff where he was writing his signature and all that. So I know he could read and write, and he was born in 1916, like I said. Now, maybe in the late 1800s, some people could read and write, but not in the early 1800s. It wasn't very common. So the cursive handwriting actually came first, before the printed handwriting. I believe that's pretty much common knowledge. Back in 1440, when Gutenberg came out with the printing press, he got credit for the first printing press, using block letters to set type to print stuff like newspapers and stuff like that, so that you could have some mass circulation of newspapers and all that. Pretty much before that, there was no mass production of documents. They were one-off documents and stuff like that. They weren't mass produced. So at any rate, I think handwriting is important. I mean, I used it all the time. I still use it all the time. You wouldn't be able to read those documents from the courthouses if you didn't know some cursive handwriting. So I think the schools are starting to bring it back. Maybe at least half of the states or so in the U.S. have started bringing it back. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. I'm glad they're bringing it back, because all those old documents are handwritten. And certainly, if you're going to do any ancestry, you're going to need to know how to read them. But that's my current thoughts on handwriting, and I'm glad they're bringing it back. So until the next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later.